this knowledge sharing session. So basically, we'll be having two sessions like this. In today's session, we'll focus more on the important aspect of jobs, the best jobs for the programmers, and we'll see some of the amazing features of Python. So today's video will be interesting in terms of knowledge. In the next session, which is coming on next Sunday, will be more of practical and it will be more fun, right? So it is more of knowledge and fun in these two sessions. And end of this session, we are going to let you know the winners of the contest, right? So basically, it's not a contest, but then we have some premium courses available on Great Learning Academy. And those courses are designed by me and then with the collaboration of Great Learning. And 5 winners will get those courses for free, right? So that's an awesome thing, right? And others, you can buy them if you want. Of course, they are the great courses if you want to upgrade your skills. So yeah, we'll talk about those in some things. Okay, so before that, I just want to share my screen. So we'll talk about today's agenda and then let's start with the interesting stuff. And then at the end of this session, we'll also have some QA session. So basically, this is a 1.5 hour session, a long one. And in the first 1 hour, we'll focus on the interesting aspects of jobs and programming. And last half an hour, we'll be having a QA session. I'm excited to see your questions. So let me share my screen. I hope I'm properly audible. I'm assuming I'm properly audible. You know, these days being live, it's fun. So let me just share my screen. Okay, that's weird. Let me share my screen and let me open the PPT. Okay, so let's get started. So the topic for today is best jobs for programmers. And so this is just a name, right? So that's not important for me. What is important is the next part, which is the Python basics. Because see, when you talk about jobs, it is very subjective. It is very, it's an important question. What is a job we should look for and what are the skills we needed for that? But anyway, we'll talk about those things. So let's start with the topic. So best jobs. Now, before even going for the job concept, let's talk about a very important thing, what you are doing in this industry. Now, irrespective if you are a programmer or if you are into QA testing, if you are a student who want to get a job, what's important is you have to understand is why you are in this field. If you took engineering as your degree course, why engineering? If you're doing a job of programming, if you're doing a job of QA, if you're doing a job of, let's say, administration, why you are doing that. So that's important, right? So first of all, irrespective of what job is important or what job will be coming in the future, the important aspect is your passion, your interest. See, if I say programming is the best thing you can do, that's not true. That's not true. We need passion to be a programmer. We need a passion to be a tester. We need a passion to be into admin jobs. We need a passion to be a trainer. So don't just be a trainer of an institute or of a college just because you feel, hey, we will get paid here. Don't do that. Do what you like, and it should be something you love. And that's tricky, right? If you have not tried something, how will you know that you love it or not? Example, if I say, how do you know that programming is your passion or maybe training is your passion? For me, I realized training is my passion after working on software for multiple years. So I was a developer. Then I realized somewhere, hey, I'm happy with programming, but then I got this opportunity to be a trainer. And then I realized, hey, training is something I love, right? So I'm more passionate trainer than more passionate developer, right? So you will realize your passion only when you do it. So don't just get into a field just because someone is saying that. Example, if I say, hey, just get into this field A, it is best. Don't do that, okay? So whenever you want to do something, if someone says, hey, this is good, first try it out. Maybe for a week or 2 weeks. If you feel it's good, go with that. Okay, so that's a disclaimer before going ahead, because in the next slide, I will talk about some jobs. Don't just take those jobs in a granted way that these are the only jobs available. And even if you hate it, you still have to learn it. Don't do that. Okay, so let's start with the first one. So what are the best jobs available? Now, if you keep this thing aside, and if you really think about the jobs available in the market, IT industry is very new. So when I say it's new, I'm comparing it with the other industries, let's say automobile industry or telecom industry. So they are very old, right? Automobile industry is there from 150 years, I guess. Telecom industry is there from the last 50, 60 years, if I'm not wrong. The IT industry is there from last 40 years or maybe 20 years. Specifically, the software field, which we can see now, it's very new, right? So when you say this is how you should be doing a software development, we are just suggesting. No one is giving you a pressured thing. Hey, this is how you make a software. This is how you do this. This is how you do this. In software industry, everything is new. It's just that there are some general practices we follow, but it's new. And that's why if you look at the jobs now, which is programmers' jobs, for example, if you want to get a job, you can be a Java programmer, you can be into Android, you can be into QA testing, right? You can be into administration, right? That's what a lot of people, when they get a job, that's what they get into. They get into programming field, they get into Android development or mobile development, they get into web development. But apart from this, now these are all amazing fields, right? This is one of the, I mean, we know that this field has some genuinity to it. Example, when you say you want to be a programmer, we know what programmer does. When you say when you get into QA is more of for quality assurance or quality testing. So it is more of a testing part which you do. But then things are changing very fast. Now there are different reasons for this. One of the biggest reason why you can see these changes now is the current situation, the COVID situation. Everything is getting digital now. So even the online, in fact, the education is online now, right? So I used to love to go to colleges and corporate to deliver lectures or trainings. Now we have to do it online. Things are changing in that way as well. So you can think if it is changing for education, think about other industries. I know you can't actually see them, but it's happening. Banking is changing. The way you do everything. In fact, government is moving online now, right? The next big thing is the power of computing which you're getting. So in the earlier days, if you go back to year maybe in 1990 or maybe year 2005, things were not that much online, right? And we were not having the great computing power. But now if you think about computing power, even the mobile phones, this mobile phone which I'm holding in my hand is powerful than my second laptop. Okay, so you can feel, right, how fast or how much the computing power is changing. So in that regards, now since we have great computing power, now we also have huge amount of data with us. I mean, think about the data you're generating every day. Now, if you have been following me on YouTube, or maybe if you have seen my TEDx talk, I have talked about this. We are generating huge amount of data every second. Okay, so I don't want to give you numbers now, but then you can imagine this. Okay, so every day you use WhatsApp, you use Instagram, you use Facebook. I mean, not just you, even devices. We if you know about IoT devices, we have sensors everywhere. They are generating data. Even the server transactions, all the transactions in the world, it's a data. Where do you store this data? Now, even if you found a way to save this data, what you will do this data? Example, let's say if you say, the government officials or this company, Google, like Facebook, there are different companies, right? They are storing your data, but what they will do with your data? They will not just save it, right? They will be using your data, but how? If they have, let's say, 5 terabyte of data and they want to make a sense out of it, how will they do it? And that's why you can see new fields now emerging. So in 2012, I remember, or 13, if I'm not wrong. So I wanted to get into big data because that was a big field at that time. So if you want to get a job, just get into big data and you're good to go, right? Huge salary because company knew, right? They have the huge amount of data, but how will you use it? But then we got something very interesting now, which is machine learning. What you will do with that data? Of course, we need to make a sense out of it, right? We need to make it automated. And that's why we got machine learning. And now we have one more, which is data scientist. So in fact, data scientist job is one of the sexiest job available in the market now, right? So according to me, in no proper sequence, I'm just going with the name. The first one is one of my favorite, which is cybersecurity. Now, cybersecurity is more important now in the previous time is because everything is getting digital, right? You are going online, your private data is going online. I mean, not just private data, the company's data as well, it is going online. So you have to secure it, right? It's very important to secure those things. And that's why cybersecurity is very important. Uh, it was important earlier as well, but now it's more is because of everything is getting online. And then uh, somewhere we have taken the online things to be granted, right? We feel Facebook, Google, your bank, they are secure. They are not, to be very honest. So cybersecurity is one of the emerging field again coming up. The next thing is DevOps. Now I know it's not new; it's there from a long time, but that's my observation. Every time I go for training in different companies, I've seen the way companies changing. I'm not talking about startups here because startup has done this way back. I'm talking about the big organizations, right? So it takes time for them to change. Now, DevOps is there from a long time, but now they're implementing it, right? So every company they don't want dev team that they don't want ops team different. They want the same team who will do both. So DevOps team. So if you want to get a job, DevOps is one of the best thing. So two things till now: cybersecurity and DevOps. The next important job is full stack. I know. Again, this is there from a long time. You might have heard about mean stack, merge stack, uh, but then that is not the only stack you should be doing. Now, first of all, let me talk about what is this full stack development means. See, if you talk about any application, it may be a website, it may be a software, it may be an Android application, anything. It needs the entire stack to work. The last stack, in fact, let's talk about the data stack. So whatever you do, you work with data, right? So we need to store that data somewhere. So that is data stack. Then we need to have an application where we'll do processing, right? So the processing part and the data part is the backend of the application. But as a customer, if I want to use an application, of course, I want an interface. So that interface is your front end. So we have a front end, we have a back end. So in the earlier days, we used to have different teams for this. So the front end people used to work with the front end part, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, amazing templates. The back end team used to work with, let's say, Java, database, MySQL, and these two teams used to come together to make that software. But then now company have realized that, when you have two different teams, when you have two different professionals, there might be an issue of misunderstanding. Why can't we have one person who can do everything, right? It will be seamless. And that's why they are preferring to hire full stack developers. That's one of the role we can do. The next one is, yeah, so for full stack, we have, you can do mean or merge stack, which is MEAN or MERN, but then you don't have to stick to JavaScript. You can get into Java as well. You can get into Python as well. So we have HTML, CSS, JavaScript in the front end, and Python Django in the back end. Now, if you have been following my channel, we do have Django course there. We do have Node.js. So back end, you can get the feel how those things works in the back end. One of my favorite is cloud architecture. I know, again, it's not new, but see, when I say new, nothing is new, right? Everything it's just a different name. Cloud was there from a long time. It's just that they wanted to have a different name, right? Even I'm working on blockchain, and it feels it's new, but it's not new. It's there from a long 10 years. But then before that as well, the core concepts of blockchain was there. It's just that we got a name now, which is blockchain. We got a name now, which is cloud. So cloud is growing so fast. Every company, they want their services to be deployed on cloud. See, when I say cloud, it's not just about using a Dropbox or GCP. It's more to it about how do you design a cloud application. If you know about microservices, if you know about, we also have nano services now. So it's more of a designing of those things than development. Developing cloud application is easy. If someone is giving you the architecture, if someone is giving you the design, and now if you want to make a product, it's easy. But the question is, how will you design the cloud application? That's something companies are looking for now. And machine learning, of course, In future, everything will be robotic, everything will be automated. So machine learning is a great field which is coming up. Okay, I know you might be thinking that what is blockchain here, right? It should be somewhere. So in the first topic, which is cybersecurity, it is slash blockchain, because blockchain provides you that security which we talked about. So it gives you trust, it gives you the power, right? So machine learning is more for robotic, it's more for automation. In future, most of the jobs will be automated. For example, let's say if you are into manual testing, now most of the manual testing has been changed with automation. So if a lot of people lost their job. In fact, maybe in future, trainers, teachers, college teachers, because of this COVID situation, some of them, maybe 50% of the teachers might lose their job because of this COVID. I know it's very bad, but that's how things are going on. Even colleges are going for online courses, recorded courses. Uh, so maybe I don't know how things will turn out for trainers, but that's the future. Machine learning is changing a lot of different things. And one more important thing, which is data scientist. As I talked about before, if you have huge amount of data with you, how will you make a sense out of it? Example, let's say, in fact, we'll be doing this example next week, next Sunday. So let's say you are working for a company and then you want to come up with a new plan. So let's say you sell products, maybe you are a car seller. So if you are into sales of cars and then you came up with a new strategy, how will you prove that your strategy will work? How will you prove to your managers? How will you prove to your the executive of your company? So what you can do is you can show them data, right? So you can show them, hey, if you do this for this car, the sales will increase. If you do this for the car, the sales will increase. But then executives and managers, they will not understand your data because it's a raw data, right? You have to make a sense out of it. Maybe you can show a graph, right? So this is how so let's say if we implement this strategy next week, the graph will go like this. If you again continue with that, the graph will go like this. This is a sales graph. But in case if you don't do it, the sales will go down. If you can show that to the executives, they will love it, right? And that's how they will understand the importance of the strategies which you are planning for. So we'll try to do that in next week's session, the practical example. But that's the job of data scientist, to make a sense out of data, to make your data actionable, right? Now this is great, right? So all these things are great, but then how do you get started? Now I know if you are into the world of programming, then you know what these things are. But then this session is more for those people who are new to programming, right? So the next week's session is more interesting because that they will be doing a lot of advanced tools, but in today's session it's more for the programmers, right? Basic, or the non-programmers, to be very specific. One more thing, as I end of the session, we have some winner announcement as well. So even if you know these basic things, it's good to learn those things, right? So stick with me. I just love to see the audience online. It's just that I can't see the exact count now. Hey Neha, if you're there, if you can just WhatsApp me the number of count. I love to see the audience, right? It motivates me. And trust me, it's weird. Okay, so if you have not done this thing before, anyone, if you're watching this live, talking to a camera, it's one of the worst thing you can do. People will feel you're mad. In fact, in front of my building, people are watching me, so I'm facing my window. So they're watching me. I don't know how they are feeling about me. So let's continue. Okay, so when you talk about programming, where you will use it. So see, if you want to do anything like this, if you want to get into maybe blockchain or machine learning or data scientist, programming is important. But then where you will use it? So programming is there everywhere, right? So example, you can do it in, so let's say if you want to make a software, if you want to make a website, you will use programming language. In fact, most of the banking applications now, they run online. I don't remember last time I went to a bank. So I do everything online now. So I receive my payments online. I do transactions online. Even if I want to buy something of 10 rupees, we do online transactions, right? So how they make these applications? They make this application with the help of a programming language. Now this can be anything, right? There are multiple options for programming languages. There are least actually. So can you guess? I don't know if there's chat available. Neha, Bharani, if you can help me with this. So in the chat window, if you have it, just enter this answer. So the question is, how many programming languages are there in this world? Okay, I'm talking about programming language. Okay, I'm not talking about the language which we use as human, but I'm talking about programming language. Give it a guess. Okay, I hope you have entered. The answer is more than 10,000 programming languages. Now, how many of them are actually used in the industry? Any guess? It's around 20 to 30 programming languages which are currently used in the industry. How many? I know, maybe 12. But at this point, I remember only 2 or 3 because once I've learned them, but then I don't work on those languages now. So we have a tendency of, you know, so those concepts evaporates from your brain. Out of which we are going to see one, which is Python. Okay, so programming can be used everywhere. It can be used for banking, for game development. In fact, that's one of the amazing field, gaming, right? So you can have your own PUBG, the Indian PUBG, maybe. I'd name it PUBG. We also have, so you can also get into machine learning. That's a hot field, right? In fact, if you want to get into machine learning, the first step is to learn a programming language. In fact, both maths and programming language, but Python is preferred there. Okay. Now this will be more of a theory topic, as I mentioned. So let me just start with it. Okay, so Neha has shared me the live link. Let me see the questions. Okay, great. So one more important thing, everyone, if you're watching this and if you have not clicked on the like button, please hit that like button, everyone. That's important. That's how I know, right, if everything is going good. Okay, some of Hardik says nearly 9K exist, but only 50 are popular. Oh, that's great. You know the answer. Okay, don't worry. I will try to answer your questions at the end of the session in last half an hour we have. Okay. Now, see, if we talk about the programming world, or in fact, let's not talk about programming now. Let's talk about the IT world. When I was doing our graduation, I had this question: why this field is named as IT? Why not something else? Because IT stands for information technology. So does it mean that we are getting information about technology? It's actually reverse. In IT, we don't learn about technology. What we do is we use technologies to work with information. So the important word in IT is not technology, it is information. Okay, so you are not tech expert. So, we have this thing. So if someone asks me, hey, in which field you're working in? So if you say you are into technology, you're not, you are into information. Okay, it's your job to work with information. And whatever tools we use is for the information. Okay. So the most important word is here is information or data. So what is data? So whatever you see, data is like, if you give a number, 5 is a data. My name is Navin is a data. Numbers, data. In fact, formulas, as I mentioned, is data. The cricket score is data. I don't know if anyone is playing cricket now. There's a match going on anyway. So everything what you see or what you get is a data, right? So whatever knowledge you have is a data. Every time you go to WhatsApp and if you see something, that's a data. Okay. Next. So now when you have this data, where you will store it? So that's a big question, right? Where you will store your data? So you will be storing your data in some place. For example, where do you store your things? So maybe mobile phone or charger. So you put them in a box, right? So that is your that's your boxes, your containers, right? So in the programming world, you store your data in a container, and we call those containers as variables, right? So you can say you have this data, which is Naveen or John. You will have a container, which is your variable, and you will put that there, right? So you will put that data in a container. And everything will be having an address. Now, by any chance, if you have learned C language or C++, you might have seen one of the it's very important, but then I used to hate it when I learned about it, which is pointers. Now I love it. I enjoy working on pointers, but at that time I used to hate it. Okay. Mm, great. So I'm also checking at your live chat if something interesting comes up. Okay. Now, once you got your data and once you have the application, see what you will do in the programming, right? So you have to work with data, right? And you can play with this data. You can save this data. You can perform operations like adding two numbers, subtracting two numbers, multiplying it. I know that doesn't make any sense, but then think about big picture. Example, let's say if you scan a QR code, how it generates. Example, let's say if you're doing a Google payment or if you're using a Google Pay somewhere, and when you scan a QR code, have you ever thought how that QR code gets converted into a UPI ID? That's done with the application, right? So you do programming there to convert that into a code. So you can do most of the operations there. Now in programming, we have something more. In fact, we'll talk about these things once we start with the Python there. So we can skip these slides. We have the same slides there as well. So we'll talk about it. Till this one, yeah. Now this is important, right? See, when you talk about a programming language, you have two things. One, you have processing, and second, you have data. So you will process the data, right? But then how will you do it? So there are two aspects here. One is the behavior and one is the data, or functions or data, you can say, instead of saying behaviors. Whenever you perform operations, whenever you do something, that's a function, okay? Now, this thing changes from programming language to programming language. Example, in C, we used to call them as functions. In Java, we call them as methods. In Python, we call them as functions again. But then in general, if you talk about those things in general, we can say functions. Even methods are functions. It's just that Java has this ego issue. They say methods, so we have to go for methods. Maybe it is not the fault of Java. It is more of object-oriented programming. They prefer to be called as methods because they work with objects. Okay. Now, when you say functions, what are functions? So whatever activity you do with the applications, example, if you want to add two numbers and when you open your calculator, so you're performing actions, right? So basically there are events, and event will call a function. Example, if you want to withdraw money, that's a function. If you want to deposit money, that's a function. When you play a game, example, when you're playing PUBG, I got a message. Yeah, so when you are playing PUBG, every action you do on that mobile phone, let's not talk about PUBG. I'm talking about PUBG on PC. Okay, so when you work with PUBG, when you play PUBG, every action which you do is done with the help of functions, right? So when your character moves, so that is done with the help of functions. In fact, I used to play PUBG last year, if I'm not wrong. So I know some of the words, but then let's stick to functions. Now, once we talk about functions, there's one thing very, very important. See, in year 1970, when C language was there, C was very famous. Okay, C was the mother of all the languages. That doesn't mean C is the first language. Before that, also we used to have languages. We used to have B language, BCPL language, then COBOL, Pascal. So we used to have a lot of languages before C language. But then C has established itself as the mother of all the languages because it used to have everything. So all the other languages, they used to be very specific for specific applications. Example, Fortran was mostly for formula translations or scientific formulas. COBOL was more for business applications, but C was everywhere. If you want to do anything, you can use C language. But then C was having one drawback, which is, see, when you say applications or when you say the virtual world, and then we have real world, right? So as humans, you live in real world. So whatever you see is real, right? Example, you can use this box. You can touch a mouse, you can touch a keyboard, you can touch a mobile phone, you can touch a mic. So everything is real. But in virtual world, everything is, you can't touch them, right? But still, we represent everything in the virtual world as objects. Example, if you want to pay something, you use real transaction, right? Or you talk about real money, right? So you say, hey, I have transferred you 10 rupees, I have transferred you 1,000 rupees. So you talk about the objects, right? When you book online, let's say when you order food online, so you order a particular dish, right? So you talk about objects. And in C, it was not object oriented, it was functions, right? And then someone realized, hey, we need to also use objects in this virtual world. So if you really want to have the virtual world and real world working together, we need objects. And that's where they got this amazing concept, which is object oriented programming, where everything should be an object. Example, mobile phone, mic, the hat, the spectacles, everything is an object, right? So that's object oriented. Not every language follows this concept. Some languages are specific for functions, some languages are specific for object oriented. Example, Java is purely object oriented. Yes, we can use functions now. C language is functional language or procedures basically. But then we have some languages which supports both. So we'll talk about them. But in object-oriented programming, we have something interesting, and that is your two things. In fact, one is object and second is class. See, let's talk about object first. Whatever you see is an object, right? Example, when you touch something, that's an object. And uh, for a few months back, China was the what do you say? It was the factory of the world. So if you want to manufacture anything, just go to China, make the product. In fact, all the phones, even if you buy an iPhone, it was made in China. Samsung phones, I'm not sure. But then all the other phones were made in China. We used to have some Chinese phones and then most of the products made in China. Now they are they're changing their factory location to different countries. But what's important is China was the world factory at that point. So even if you buy an iPhone, let's say if you pay around 70,000 rupees and you buy an iPhone, it is made in China, right? So what is more important, manufacturing of the phone or design of the phone? Because if you see the back of the iPhone, hey, where's my iPhone now? Okay, I don't have my phone here. But if you see any Apple device, it says designed in California and assembled in China, which simply means they have designed it. So the iPhone is designed in California in the head office, but it was manufactured in China. So what is more important, designing or manufacturing? So you can answer that in the chat window. I can still see that. Yeah, manufacturing will be in India. So what is more important? So let me give the answer because I guess there's a delay in the chat as well. So the answer is designing is more important than manufacturing. Manufacturing can be done anywhere, right? So when you say it's an Apple product, it's more of a design which they follow. If you talk about Samsung, design which they follow. Manufacturing is just that they got a design, just make it. Right. In the same way, in the programming world as well, we have two things, objects and classes. So the objects are the real objects. So when you buy a phone, basically you buy an object. But before buying this object, it has to be manufactured. And for manufacturing, they need a design. And that design is a class. And that's why we say class is a blueprint for the objects. So example, if you go to, let's say, if you have a Okay, I'm live again. Something went wrong. Okay, great. Okay, so I don't know if you heard that noise. So next to my building, I have a electric office. So there's electricity board next to me, and it just got blast. That's weird. Things happen. Okay, great. Let's get back here. So yeah, so class design is more important than the object. So example, if you want to make something, if you want to have a factory, let me just get that light on. Okay, so now it's working on UPS. Thank you so much, UPS. Yeah, so I was talking about this thing. So if you want to have so design, if you get a design, it's easy to make the product. So design is more important than the objects. Okay. So what you will have in the design. So in the virtual world, if you want to have the object or if you want to have a design, this design needs two things. The first one is the properties, and second one is the behavior. Now, properties are the things what you need. Example, let's say if you talk about my object, or if you talk about, let's say, okay. So let's say this remote. So this is a AC remote, right? So this is an object, right? So it will be designed somewhere. I hope it is not made in China. Not sure, nothing mentioned here. So let's say if you have this remote and this remote is been designed, right? So this has been designed by LG. Manufacturing, I'm not sure, maybe any company. But then this will have two things: the properties. It is white color. The length is maybe around 10, 15 centimeters. It has multiple keys. But then those are the properties, right? The actual behavior will be depend upon the functions, right? So if you can say, for example, on, off, temperature down, temperature up, those are the functions. In the same way, if we talk about phone, so phone will have certain properties: color, cost, battery. Uh, Behavior will be your calls, videos. So you can call someone, you can watch videos, you can play games, you can send an SMS, right? Okay, finally the power is back. Okay. Finally, power is back. So yeah, so objects are more important. Sorry, class is more important than object, right? So example of objects are mobile phones, right? So these are the actual objects. So we can also say in the programming world we call them as instances of the class, right? So now next thing. So once you got an object, once you got an object has two things: properties and behavior, right? Now, there is one thing very important. Some of the question, so when I go live or when I take a training, I get this question: how to improve your logic? See, the thing is, if you want to learn any language, the first thing you learn is syntax, right? So how that language behaves, the variables, loops, control statements. But then, if you really want to improve your coding, if you want to improve your logic in your programming, you need to understand what are algorithms. If you work on more algorithms, it will improve your logic. So if you are doing your engineering degree and if you have came across this thing like, the binary sort, bubble sort, linear search, binary search, heap sort. So all those are inbuilt algorithms, right? Now you don't have to make your own sorting algorithms, but then you have to understand the existing algorithm to understand or to improve your logic, right? But then what is algorithm? Now before that, let's understand how do you make a juice. So if you want to make a lemon juice, what you do. So there are certain steps you follow, right? Now that when you follow that step, that's an algorithm. To build any application, you need to write algorithms. Maybe if you it's not compulsory to have. So if you got a requirement, you have to first write algorithm on the paper and then you write a code. But it should be there in your mind. Okay, so when you get a requirement, if you don't want to write the algorithm on paper, it should be there in your brain. You should know the steps, and then you can write a code. So coding is just converting that algorithm into actual syntax. So if you want to improve your what do you say, the logic, if you want to have a strong logic, make sure that you improve your algorithm skills. So algorithm like this: if you want to make a juice, steps. So this is algorithm. Okay, so this is algorithm. So you have to find the ingredients, you have to cut the lemon into two parts, you have to squeeze the lemon in the water, and then you have to add sugar, you have to stir it well, and serve it cold. Steps, right? This is algorithm. Okay. Uh, so that's a step-by-step approach. So basically, what is algorithm? So if you want to solve a particular problem, you will get an input, you will do the processing with the algorithm, and you will get the output, right? Okay, now this is one of the algorithm example of even order. I remember when I was in my 10th standard, we used to have this subject in Hindi, which is called. Okay, how many of you know the Hindi version or Hindi name of computer? Right. So I used to have this subject in Hindi. I used to have this chapter in Hindi subject, and the word is Sanganak. So we call Sanganak, which is a computer. So we used to have these flowcharts. Okay, we used to have this diagram. So this is an algorithm to find even order. Uh, Again, what those boxes are, we can talk about that in some separate session. But that's how you build an algorithm. As I mentioned before, it's no compulsory to. There's no compulsion to have this thing on paper while you write a code, but this should be there in your brain. And how will you get this thing in your brain is by doing this on paper first. So when you're practicing, do it on paper, and step by step you will learn these things. Okay, now coming back to a language. Now we have talked about all the language aspects, right? We have talked about what is OOPS, and we have seen functions. Why Python first? Now this is the important question. Okay, so if you search for the best language in the industry now, everyone. Okay, first of all, let me just shut this light off because it creates sort of darkness behind me. Still, I can see dark. That's weird. Anyway, this works, right? So you can at least see my face. See, what's important is, sorry, if you go to Google and if you search for the best language in the industry, most of the articles or videos will say Python. Why? Why Python is one of the best language? Now, some people say it's a new language, right? So Java is old, C is old, C# is old. The new one is Python. That's not the case. Python is not a new language. Python came in 1995 or 1985, way before Java. It was public release, I guess, in 1991 or 89. Doesn't matter. It came before Java. Now, why it is so famous now is because of two things: machine learning and data science, because they heavily use Python there. And why this field uses Python is because, see, when you talk about machine learning and data science, it's not programming which is important, is the concepts, the domain knowledge is very important. And the thing is, if you are a domain expert, if you are expert of machine learning and data scientist, and if you want to implement them in programming, which language will you choose? Difficult one or easy one? Of course, easy language, right? So Python is the easiest language in the industry. Okay. Python is efficient? No, Python is not efficient. Python is slow. Compared to Java, C, Python is slow, but it's easy. It is easy to implement. And still there's a way you can optimize Python to work faster as well. So why Python is because it is easy. It is used in multiple applications already, and it is open source. And languages which are open source they get highly promoted. It is cross-platform, so you can use it on different platforms. One of the reasons why I love Python is because of the amount of libraries it has. See, as a beginner programmer, you never think about libraries, right? Because we are more concerned about syntax. We are more concerned about, can we use this loop? Can we use this if else? But then if you really think about the programming world, if you want to make a software, you can't build a software without libraries. I mean, you can build a software without libraries. But why to do things which are already built? Example, let's say if you want to make a website and if you want to have a login form, why to create login from scratch when you can use libraries, when you can use existing services to have a login form? So Python has a great library there. Then Python is also object-oriented, as I mentioned. C is POP, which is procedure-oriented programming, but Python is both functional and object-oriented. Now question arises, how will you get started with Python? It's very easy. Just go to the website of Python, which is python.org, and you can download the Python. Now there are two things very important. Most of you might have asked this in the chat, but let me answer that now. When you go to Python website, there are two versions. One is Python 2 and Python 3. And one of the reasons why I used to hate Python, okay, literally I used to do that. So maybe in 2012 or 13, when I was working on some project, someone suggested me to go for Python, and I have given them the weird reaction. Why Python? Because Python had a 3.0. I guess Python 3.0 just came at that point, and it was not backward compatible. So normally what happens is whenever you have a new versions of languages, they are backward compatible. Example, in Java, we have Java 14, which came up now. It is compatible with Java 12, Java 11, Java 10. Python, that was not the case. Python 3 is different. Python 2 is different. So now if you want to work on Python, of course, go for Python 3. Even they have depreciated Python 2 as guess. They have stopped the support as well. So if you are working on Python 2, it's time to shift to Python 3. So download this version, Python 3.8. There's no major changes between Python 2.3.7 or 3.8. They're almost same. Because if you check out the course, the premium course available on the website, so in the description, you will find a link for the courses. You can just check them out. So with the collaboration of Great Learning, we made this awesome course, because learning something is not just about videos, right? It's also about quiz. It's also about the reading text. So you can check the course, and it is awesome. Okay, so that's how you can install Python. So just go to this link and you can now get the Python version. But then where you will type the code, right? You need an IDE for that. And that's where you have this amazing IDE called PyCharm. Now, there are multiple options available. One of them is PyCharm, and PyCharm works efficiently, right? So you can just get a PyCharm. You can just go to the website, which is jetbrains.com/PyCharm. They also have, they have two versions, I guess, maybe one. So you can just check them out, and PyCharm works beautifully. In the courses as well, PyCharm, we have used PyCharm in the course. So you can follow that. You can also install Anaconda, which is one of the awesome editor for Python. To mention here, you can also use Jupyter. In fact, we'll be using Jupyter for the next session. Yeah, Jupyter is great. Now, one of the interesting thing about, amazing thing about I love about Jupyter is the instant output in a graphical way. I just love it. Right, so. Okay, so we have talked about variables. We have talked about, yeah. So one thing very important, there are languages which are, what do you say? They're not strictly typed. Example, JavaScript, you can use any variable without assigning the values or without assigning the type. But for some languages like Python, Java, we have to specify the type of the variable. Example, let's say if you have a container or if you have a glass, of course, that glass will only take liquid things, right? So that's a liquid container. If you take a box, let's say box like when you get an Amazon delivery, you get a box, the cardboard box. Now you cannot have the liquid material there, right? So everything has the type of material you can have in that. The same way in programming language as well. For every variable, you need to have a data type. So we can talk about this in the next session, I guess. Yeah, now this is important I will talk about. Now coming back to the same topic which we have talked about before, which is data. The most important thing in the IT world is data. Whatever you do it for data. Processing for data. Storage of data, but how will you do it? See, you can store your data anywhere, right? You can store your data in a file, you can store your data in your database. But when you want to process it, you need to have a special type of containers when you want to process data. I'm not talking about one or two variables. I'm talking about the collection of data. So Python says, hey, I will give you some types of collection here. You can use tuple, you can use list, you can use dictionary or set. Now, what are those? In general, you can say they are collection of data. So if you have multiple data, they will come together and they will form a collection. Let's talk about tuple first, or tuple. That's a confusion, right? How do you pronounce it? Is it tuple or tuple? Different countries have different pronunciations. So what's important is tuples are immutable. So once you have your data in tuple, you can't change it. So basically, you represent that with the help of round brackets. Okay, so different type of collection have different types of representations. So for tuple, you say round brackets, and let's say you have a value which is 1, A, and true. So those are the 3 values here. You can't change them now. Okay, so it's immutable. So immutable simply means you can't change the value. Example, if you try to change a value, it will give you error. Then we have list. Now list is, again, it's a collection, but you can change the values. So they are mutable. So immutable means you can't change a value. Mutable means you can change the value. And so list is, they're mutable. So you can change the values. And in the programming world, you have a tendency of changing values. Okay. And then one of my favorites is dictionaries. Now dictionaries are key and a value pair. Okay, so example, when you talk about phone book, so your name is associated with a contact number. So that's one value of a dictionary. So you will be having a key and a value pair. Example, here we have apple 10, orange 20. So that's a key value pair. Then we have set. Now set is interesting because it will not allow you to have duplicates. Okay, maybe it's a set of roll numbers, set of colors. It should be unique. Okay. Now in the programming world, there are 2 things. One is calculations and second is decisions. See, when you say machine learning, right? Machine learning will make things automated. Example, if you have a driverless cars, so in future you will be having a car. I'm not sure how it will be implemented in the place where I stay in Kalyan, because there are a lot of potholes. So I don't know, it will get stuck somewhere, or maybe it will lose the internet connectivity. That's more important. When you have a car which doesn't need a driver, the thing is how it will calculate the speed, how it will check if you have some a car in front of you, right? If there's a signal, so it will apply if-else conditions there, right? So if someone is there, stop the car. If there's a traffic, slow down. So that is done with the help of if-else. If it is raining, sit inside. If it is else, play a football. If-else, right? So that's what you do in programming. It's more of a if-else statements. In fact, there's a meme going on on the internet. What is machine learning? So I don't know if you have seen Scooby-Doo. I should have used that meme here. So in the Scooby-Doo, you have a villain there, and then he has a mask of machine learning. When you remove the mask, you will see if-else, right? But that's a meme. Okay, that's not true. We also have looping statements. So when you want to do something repeatedly, we use loops. So loops are basically, there are 2 loops actually in programming. In Python, we have while and for loop. Again, there are different reasons to use it, but then we have loops option. In fact, I want to focus this in the next session. We have talked about these things. We've talked about objects. We've talked about classes. Yeah, now this is interesting. As I mentioned, Python is awesome, right? You can just download Python from the python.org/downloads. Now, once you got Python with you, once you got a PyCharm, how will you make a use of it? I mean, of course, learning syntax is great, but then how will you want, if you want to have a fun with it, you can use these libraries. And that's one of the amazing thing about Python, right? We have so many libraries available, like we have NumPy, Matplotlib, we have Pandas. If you want to do something else, we have different libraries. So we'll be using one of these, maybe 2 of these libraries next week in the next session, which will be interesting. And we'll focus more on one aspect. How will you use these libraries for data science? So if you want to get into data science, how will you use these libraries there, right? And if I want to show you a demo of how Python looks like, that's my prompt. That's a full screen. And if I want to use Python here, so first of all, if you install Python, you have to say Python 3, because in this machine, I guess I have Python 2 as well. So let me use Python 3. That's my Python prompt. Let me increase the font size. Clear screen will not work in Python. My bad. So once I got this screen, you can do anything you want. Example, if you want to do +2 + 2, you can do it. If you want to create a variable by assigning 8, you can do it. If you can just say 8, it will print the value of A. So whatever thing we have seen in these slides, I guess there will be also You'll be also having an option of getting these slides, so you can check them out and try out different examples. And yes, I can see in the chat window someone says if you want to use NumPy, you can simply say pip install NumPy and you will get it. That's right. And we'll see those things in the next session. Okay, I hope so we have covered a lot of things in this session. Yeah, Matplotlib is for the plot graphs. Now I just want to, yeah, so you can use this thing and you can create some things. You can practice. Okay, so now I'm tired. It's time for QA session, which will be interesting, I hope. Okay, so the first question, interesting one from Shrikant Kumar, and the question is, hello sir, what's the difference between a ML project and a data science project? Okay, so the answer is data science is a big umbrella. Okay, so it's a big umbrella where you have multiple projects in it. So one of them is machine learning. So data science will have data staging, data visualization, and machine learning. So you can imagine if you're working on machine learning, that's one of the stage of life cycle of data science. Next question from Ananta Kumar says, it's still worth to learn .NET and what will be the demand of .NET development in future? See, Microsoft did one of the very interesting thing recently, which is they made the .NET platform open source. Okay, not recently, which it's been a lot of time. Now, since it is open source, there will be a lot of contributions and things are again going in a .NET way. But I'm not sure how far it will be because the other technologies, the other languages are already booming, right? But if you have a choice of learning a language now, I would say go for Python now. Don't just go into .NET. Yes, if your company is, if you are working in a company and then they say go for .NET, of course you should be. But if you have a choice, I would say go for Python first and then Java. Because see, once you learn Java, it will be easier for you to jump to different fields, different languages like Kotlin, Scala. So they're all part of what you can say. Java is the mother of all the other languages. So I would not suggest .NET, but in case if your company suggests, then go for it. What do you think about DevOps as a career path? It's a great career. The only thing is DevOps is great, and the only problem which I see is they are automating most of it. So if you're into DevOps cycle and most of the things are getting automated, so make sure if you join a company and if you are working on a project, keep upgrading yourself on the next levels. Okay, don't just stick to one of the part of it in the DevOps field. So keep upgrading, and it's a great field to get into. Okay, next one from Navin Reddy, and the question is, can we do competitive coding with Python? Of course, why not? And Python is one of the preferred language. Apart from C, C++, Python is a great language to do competitions. Question from Mr. Bhatt, and the question is, sir, what is AWS? So basically, AWS is a cloud service. As I mentioned before, all the companies, they want their applications to be deployed on cloud, and AWS is very famous. Let me just do one thing here. Yeah, so AWS is very famous. There are other options as well. So AWS stands for Amazon Web Services. So it's one of the biggest cloud service. We have other options as well. We have, GCP, which is Google Cloud. We have Red Hat, OpenShift. We have Microsoft Azure. So there are so many options available. You can check them out. Let me stop sharing my screen. Okay, before continuing, everyone just hit that like button, everyone. I can see the number of likes there. That is not properly visible. Okay, next question from Mandeep. What's the future of finance professional? Okay, I'm not sure about if you're talking about in general or specific to technology. If you are into fintech, I would say upgrade to new technologies like blockchain, maybe data science. It has a good future. Okay, how can we become a game developer? Okay, see, the thing is, in game development, there are different aspects available. One is the UI part, the second one is the logic part, and you have to start working with some gaming models. Example, you can try it with Unity if it still works. One of my friend was into game development and he started with Unity, and that's how you start get into game development. There are other things as well, but you can start with Unity. And Unity works with C Sharp, if I'm not wrong, C Sharp.net. So start with that. So maths is also important because you'll be doing a lot of calculations. Physics is important. Example, when you play any game nowadays, it's full of physics, right? So there are multiple aspects for the game development. You can make a game which doesn't follow physics. Maybe you can make a South Indian movies. Being a South Indian, I know what I'm talking about. So where physics doesn't apply, in that case, you can just focus on UI, some math skills, and you're good to go. Okay. Okay. So what are skills? So this question is from Sanidhi. And the question is, what are the skills required for DevOps? See, for DevOps, you need a lot of different things: development and ops. Development, a programming language, the frameworks. Maybe let's stick to Java. So Java language, Spring framework. Then for testing, JUnit. Then Git because you want to deploy it on the cloud. Then Jenkins to build the pipeline. Uh, then some static analysis tools, maybe Sonar, something like that. Then cloud knowledge because you'll be deploying it on cloud or maybe AWS. There are so many things you need to learn. So I would say start with development, learn a framework, learn to use Git, learn to use cloud service, and remaining things you will find out from the field. So okay, difference between, so this question is from Mr. Bhora, and the question is difference between Java and JavaScript. To answer that, we have a very simple answer. Again, a meme material. So difference between Java and JavaScript, it is almost same as car and carpet. Okay, it's just that JavaScript has a name Java. You know why they have this Java name is because in 1995, when Java got famous, JavaScript was having a different name to it. I forgot the name of it. And then they realized, hey, instead of using that name, we should be using some familiar name, which is Java. Java is running in the market, so let's say JavaScript. But they're not linked with each other. Okay, they're two different things. It's just that they wanted to use that name, which is Java. We have a question from Shravani, and the question is how to get into product-based companies. Okay, see, in the industry, there are different types of companies for everyone. Okay, so we have startups, we have service-based companies, we have product-based companies, and they all have a different way of hiring people. They have different strategies. They want different type of people. Example, in startups, they want people, now irrespective if they have the knowledge or not, they want someone who are eager to learn, who are eager to work. Because in startups, they have a different environment. They have limited number of people. They just want to get things done with minimum resources. If you want to get into service-based companies, they have a different attitude. For service-based companies, they want humans, irrespective if they have the skills or not. Minimum skills are okay for them. What they need is humans, so that they will train those humans, and they will get started. For product-based companies, in fact, in service-based companies, they hire people in bulk. So they will go to one of the college and they will hire, let's say, 10 people, 20 people. And in product-based companies, they do reverse. They only hire one or no one, or two maximum. So they pick only quality products. Okay, so who deserves the jobs or who can actually work in the company. So that person needs everything: eager to learn, eager to work, knowledgeable. So they look for everything. So the first thing you need to get a job in product-based company is eager to learn something. Okay, so at no point you can say, hey, I have learned Java, I have learned this framework, now I know Python, now I know Django, my job is done. I will not learn something new. You can't do that in product-based companies. They will throw you out. So make sure that you are eager to learn new things. Next big thing you will need. Okay, where's my face? Yeah, the next big thing you will need is the skill set. Now, what type of skill set I'm talking about? The basic skill set. The first one, programming language, data structures, mathematical skills, analytical skills. And once you have that, you need one special skill, which is any specific technology. It can be cloud services, it can be blockchain, it can be machine learning, it can be data science. So do one specific thing, okay? And then you can approach. Make sure that you are also good with communication. There are a lot of skills required nowadays. Okay, it's not just about one or two skills. The different skills available. Okay, so next question from Gagan. What is a thread in Java? See, when we talk about a process, one process can do one task. Okay, so example, if you want to add two numbers, if you want to send a request to the server, you will use a process, right? But the problem is with process, they are heavyweight. So if you want to clone that in multiple instances, so let's say if you want to add 10 numbers and if you want to do it simultaneously, uh, each process will take a lot of resources. So what your system does is they break down your things into subparts. And the smallest part of a process is called a thread. So using one thread, you can do one task. So let's say if you want to do 10 tasks, you can do 10 tasks simultaneously with 10 threads. And the awesome thing is, in your system, if you're using, let's say, i3 machine, i5 machine, you'll be having multiple cores. And each core can run one thread at a time. So if you have 4 cores, you can run 4 threads. So it is beneficial for programmers to do that. Okay. Okay, question is, hello sir, please tell about cybersecurity versus data science comparison. How about merging both domains? Okay, that's weird. How would I merge these both domains? See, one of the way I can do that is they have one thing common, which is data, right? In fact, all the fields have one thing common, which is data, right? So in cybersecurity, you try to protect data. In data science, you get data and you try to make a sense out of it. And one of the interesting examples for this would be Facebook. So Facebook collects huge amount of data and they do data analysis on every data which you give them. Maybe if you as a post, image, your location. So they track everything and they save it and they make a sense out of it with the help of data science. But how will you protect that data from the hackers? So that's where they will implement cybersecurity, which they are not doing it. Okay, I hope I answered that question. Next question, can Java also be used in implementing machine learning? Java can be used, yes, but it is not a preferred language. So the preferred language is Python, R language. It's not that someone will stop you from using Java. It's just that it's not preferred because it has limited number of libraries. It is bulky and difficult to learn. Okay, question from Raghav. What are the microservices? So microservices, okay, think about this. In the earlier days, we used to make big applications, right? One big application. Think about Amazon. So when Amazon was there only in US, they made this big application, right, which is Amazon.com, and then it was working. But then they realized, hey, we want to move these services to multiple countries. Let's say we want to move Amazon to India. We want to move Amazon to different countries. In this case, can they simply copy the existing project into the new countries? They can't because Amazon.com provides you a lot of features, let's say 10 features, out of which In India, they only have 5 features. They don't have all the features provided in Amazon.com. So they can't copy the exact project. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you have one big application, and let's say Amazon.com again, and today is a is a sale of, let's say, festival sale. Of course, you will be having more customers than the earlier days, and then you have to increase your computing power. Of so, what type of computing power you will increase? See, Amazon has multiple modules, right? They have a module like customer data. They have modules like number of products online. They have searches on Amazon because you search for the product, right? Then transactions. Now, if you have a sale today, what are the services which needs a lot of power? Customer data will remain same. Number of products will remain same. What will increase is transactions. So when you want to increase this, if you want to scale up your application, if you want to increase the power of your application, you will not, you don't want to scale up the other modules like customer data or products. So in this case, what you will do is you will take that big application, you will break down into small parts, and each small part will be called microservices or microservice. And you will combine those microservices to form a big application. So that if you want to upscale it, you will upscale only, or if you want to scale it, you will scale particular microservices, not all. If you want to, let's say, create a new website like Amazon.in, you will pick up some of the services, merge it up, and you will give the new application. It has a lot of different advantages. These are some of them. Last 2 questions, and then we are done, so that we can continue that in the next Sunday. But don't worry, I will not be wearing the same shirt, because no, that's what happens in the TV shows, right? So they say next week, but they wear the same color, same shirts. I might be wearing same t-shirts, same t-shirt. Okay, difference between API and microservices. Very big topic. Let's not talk about now. Okay, question from Mr. Pandey. And the question is, what is the pathway to learn new technologies after learning Python, or after learning Java? See, after Java, there are different options. First of all, you have to decide in which field you want to get into. If you want to get into machine learning, data science, go for Python. If you want to get into microservices, go for Spring Framework, learn microservices, concepts, implement them. If you want to get into mobile development, go for Android. Best thing to do. One question, and then we are done. And the question is very interesting. Maybe we should have a title of this form. Can Python replace Java? The answer is no. I was about to say depends, but I will say no, because see, in the industry, in the enterprise market, Java is awesome. Okay, so most of the corporate projects are made in Java, is because it is scalable easily. It has multiple frameworks available, a lot of developers available. So at least for a few years, or maybe 5 years, Java is not going anywhere. But yes, there are different fields where Python is very famous, right? Machine learning. Java will not even think about getting into machine learning now, right? They will, it all depends upon the programmers actually. Programmers will focus more on Python for machine learnings. So that's it. Now it's time for very important thing, which is the winners. Who will win or who will get the courses? Let me just get that thing on the screen. Okay, I got that on a screen. So now I'm sharing one thing, which is list of winners. So let me share my screen now. So these are the winners who got the courses for free. So basically, you will find in the description area there are 2 links for the premium courses, and so those are, so the first one is for Python, second was for Python for data science, and these people will get the course for free. Let's see. Let me share the screen. Congratulations, Saurabh, Kaushalya, Saktivel, Hussein, and Sambit. So you will reply a mail from Great Learning Academy, and they will be giving you the courses. The courses will be launching from 19th, if I'm not wrong. Need to check with the team. But I hope you will be enjoying the courses. And the important thing is, next week we'll be having the interesting topic of data science. So we'll be having a live session. So we'll be using Python for data science in the next session. So yeah, that's it, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this session. Next week we'll be having some practical examples. So bye-bye, everyone. See you in the next live session.